Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. I'm Mike Sadek. I'm the Managing Director of Retail Trading at Lightspeed. And with me today I have Chris Nally, who's the Lightspeed Product Manager. So in this webinar we're going to focus on orders. And you'll see Chris review different methods of order entry, order types, and how to build custom orders, along with a few other things. If you're not a Lightspeed client yet and you would like to get a more hands-on feel of the platform, you can go to our homepage at lightspeed.com and request a free 2-week demo of the software. And then, of course, we have service and sales associates who would be happy to go over the platform with you and give you a one-on-one tutorial if you need one. Also, you can find recordings of all our past webinars and a listing of the new upcoming webinars at lightspeed.com/webinar. So I would just invite everyone to go on there and review all the recordings that we have. If there's any questions that you have about what we're discussing today as we go along, please type them into the chat box on the webinar console panel, and we're going to try to answer as many of them as we go along. So we like to keep these webinars interactive. And then we're also going to do a quick Q&A at the end. So if you prefer, you can save your questions until the very end of the webinar. So Chris, without further delay, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start out by going over the ways to enter the orders in Lightspeed and give you some descriptions on some settings to do all the different types of order entries. I'm going to start right here above the level 2 in the order entry window. It's the point-and-click driven engine to send orders in Lightspeed. To start by changing symbols, if you click in the level 2 below the order entry window and just type in any symbol, you'll see that it is automatically by default linked to the order entry window from the level 2. As I type a symbol, you'll see it change, and you'll see every field here gets populated with the appropriate information from that specific symbol. In this example, I have Microsoft loaded, and you'll see the buttons pretty self-explanatory. We have buy and sell. We have the inside bid and ask, the symbol, the number of shares, the price, which automatically by default I have set to initialize to the bid, which was 27.11 at the time I entered the symbol. I have the default market set as ARCA, the type as a limit, and the visibility to show 100 shares, and my time in force set to day. Now all of these can be customized to a wide range of different default strategies. All of them can be set as defaults if you choose. Same with markets, time in force, and you can have the share size as well. So I'll go ahead and send a limit order for Microsoft, adjust the price down to the offer. So once I hit buy, I'm intending to buy 100 shares using ARCA at the offer price at 27.14. So I'll hit buy and go. You'll see the order goes in with all the information, 100 shares of Microsoft at 27.14 from ARCA. You see this order is pending here in the orders window. I can go ahead and right-click on that order and choose cancel. In simulation mode, if that was to print at 14, it would have executed and it would have showed up here on the position side. You can also, if you right-click in that order entry window and go to settings, this is where you can set the defaults for the point and click. You can choose buy or sell as the default. You can choose a default price, like I was mentioning. You see how I have the default type set to limit and the market set to ARCA. Moving over down to the right of the level 2, I have hot buttons windows. I have 3 of them configured. There are many different uses for hot buttons windows. In this first one, I'm using it to send orders and cancel orders. The second one I have is both actually the second and the third hot buttons windows I have on this layout are used to switch between pages. So to start from scratch, I'll go to the palette and click on Hot Buttons. In order to customize the Hot Buttons window, I'll then right-click within the window and choose Add. In this example, I'll choose to add buttons to place orders. So I'll choose Orders from the menu. I'll choose Tier Size Orders, and now I can select any of the available tier size orders from the keyboard command list. So for this example, I will choose, like I have one down here, we'll choose ARCA by tier. I'll highlight it, choose Add. Once it's added to my Hot Buttons window, I can choose a font color. So since it's a by, well, I'll leave the font color black. But for the button color, since it's a by, I'll make it green. And once I hit OK, you'll see that that button populates inside the Hot Buttons window. Now, in order to buy ARCA tier, all I'd have to do is click that button. You'll see that I bought my tier size, which I have set to 100. It went ahead and put the order out for 100 shares at Microsoft at the offer price. Now, in addition to setting orders in the Hot Buttons windows, you can also do cancels the same way, but from the order types on the right, I would choose cancel order keys, like I have set up here for cancel all orders. So if I was to send an order and then click cancel orders, you'll see that it immediately goes out. Now, in addition to that, you can also set up, like I have this Hot Buttons 3 window, I have it set up to toggle between different pages. So in Lightspeed, you can have different pages layered on top of each other so to save space. On this layout, I have it set up where I have a blank page, just for this example. This window actually here that stays on both is the level 2 window. It stays on both because I have it set to lock, so I can share this window amongst all of my different pages without having to open a new one. So you'll see as I switch over from this third Hot Buttons window, I have it set up for my options page. So as I click that, you'll see that I have my options market data chain, my options quote window below it. As I click on a symbol, which I clicked here on the Microsoft October 22nd, 2011, 1750 calls, it populates with the depth of market in the options quote window below. It also links the underlier to Microsoft. And here to the right, I have something similar to the order entry window for equities that we saw on the equities page, where you can set the parameters for your order that you want to send and enter options orders. So as I go back to the Hot Buttons window, I'll click on the equities page, and you'll see that it'll toggle back to the page that I have customized to trade equities. Let's see. I'll move on to the next way to enter orders, which is through keyboard. To open up the keyboard settings, we'll click on the C in the top right for the configuration settings. In the configuration settings, I'll click on the keyboard tab, and this will show me all of the available keys that I can customize to my keyboard within Lightspeed. So starting off with tier size orders, you'll see that there's a wide array of available keys that can be chosen and mapped to any set of keys on your keyboard. For this, I'm going to go ahead and choose a NASDAQ bid tier. So this command I'll highlight from the available list of commands. I'm going to map this to Shift Q on the keyboard. So I'll just hit the Q on the keyboard and it'll bring it into focus. It'll show me what Q keys are available with the modifier. In this example, I'm going to put it to Shift Q. So I'll highlight Shift Q on the left and click Map. Now you see it moves over to the left. This is where anything that is mapped is on the left-hand side, and you'll see the S and Q for Shift Q. Now, in Lightspeed, you are kind of forced to map any of these commands to enter orders to a command on the keyboard plus a modifier, meaning Shift, Alt, Control, or a combination of any of those. Just in case, if I map this just to Q and I typed in QQQ, I wouldn't want to send 3 orders right away. So it's forced to be in a combination with a modifier. So in this case, like I said, Shift Q, I have mapped to NASDAQ bid tier. Now if I went out of these settings, I clicked into my level 2, and once I hit Shift Q, you'll see it will initialize the order box. In this case, you'll see the details to bid 100 shares of Microsoft at 27.11. Now, since the command said bid, that's why it'll initialize to the bid price. As you might have seen in the list of keyboard commands, there's also most of the keys have a corresponding buy key. Those buy keys will initialize this box, but instead of initializing to the bid price, it'll initialize to buy at the offer price. So that's the difference between bid and buy. On the same note, we have also offer and sell. If I was to use the offer command, it would initialize to sell at the offer price, which would be in this case 27 spot 13. And then if I had to sell, it would cross to initialize to sell at the bid at 27 spot 11. Now, I can go ahead, once I initialize this box to bid 100 Microsoft at 27.11, I can by default use my left and right arrow keys to increment and decrement by 1 penny. And I also can customize where I can use the up and down arrow keys, or I can repeat the Command-Shift-Q, and it will toggle through the different available direct connected ECNs that we have access to within Lightspeed. So in order to put a bid in here below the market at $27, I'll make it up actually $27.10. Once I hit enter, the order will go in to buy 100 shares of Microsoft at 27 spot 10. Again, I can go in then to cancel all orders from my hot buttons, and you'll see it goes out right away. Or I could have right-clicked on the order and chosen to cancel that specific order. Or from the keyboard command, I can also map from the cancel order keys a wide range of different cancel types. Cancel ECN buy, both would have worked to cancel that order. It's pretty self-explanatory what they all do. Cancel first, cancel last, cancel all. So if I wanted to go ahead and map cancel all, kind of like I mapped the NASDAQ bid tier, I can click and make it, let's say if I wanted to make it F8, I clicked F8 physically on my keyboard. You'll see that F8 comes up on the left as an available key. I'll highlight it, click map. You'll see cancel all became a mapped key on the left to F8. And as I exit out, I'll go ahead, enter a bid using the Shift Q at 27.04 for 100 on Microsoft. That order is in on the market in my orders window, as you see above. And then I'll go ahead and hit F8 on my keyboard, and that will cancel out all of my pending orders.
Hey, Chris, could you go back to the bid pop-up box you had up for a second? Okay, and if someone wanted to change, so by default I see you have 100 shares set here, and if I wanted to change the order size.
On this I have, by default, there's a setting within Lightspeed where you can just have the number pad set to tiers. So as I hit the 100, it will the one on my my number pad will change it to 100 shares, 2 to 200, 3 to 300, and all the way up to 0, meaning 1,000. So 9, 900, 8, 7, all the way down. You can also type in, you can also have it so when you initialize the box, you can type in manually from the numbers across the top, type in 1 or 200, enter, and it'll populate the tier size.
Okay, great. And
where was
your default order size set?
Excuse me?
Where was the default order size set? So if you wanted the orders to always default to, say, 200 shares instead of 100.
So we'll go into the settings, and there's a specific tab in the settings called tier size. I have everything right now set to 100 shares except for a custom couple that I have in here, which I have Cisco for 1,000 and SPY to 500. So anytime I type in Cisco into level 2, you'll see that the tier will come up and automatically adjust to 1,000 shares. And if I typed in SPY, it would automatically adjust my tier to 500. There are a bunch of settings in here that are really nice. You can have your tier reset after you log off back to 100, so this custom list will automatically be deleted. And you have, from this drop-down, the ability to set your tier size to a lot of different options.
Okay, so you can have a global default, but then you can make a few exceptions for specific symbols like you have for Cisco and spiders.
Right, so if I wanted to say, for example, for a custom list, if I wanted to make Microsoft, I could type in MSFT for the stock and say I wanted to make that 300 shares. When I add and hit OK, you'll see that my tier was set to 300 for Microsoft. So as I show here, as I initialize the box, it comes up as 300 like it was set, and it's also being displayed here in level 1 as tier for 300.
Okay, perfect.
All right, one more thing I guess mentioning here in this order box is this H. That's to hide, to toggle hidden on and off. By default, it's an H on the keyboard. So as I initialize this order, I have hidden turned on. If I wanted to turn it off, I would just simply hit the H on the keyboard, and it will turn that hidden off and then go out and show my full display size to the market. All right, now I'm going to switch to something that hopefully is trading, and I'm going to accumulate a couple positions. So I'm going to go ahead and use my bid keys and cross the market to buy, see if I get filled on any of these, so I can show you how to cover positions or close out positions with the keyboard, or excuse me, with the mouse from the positions window. Let's see here. There we go. So I just went ahead and I bought 500 shares of SPY at 121.31. Okay. Now, in order to get out of that position, I have the option to right-click on it with the mouse, and I can close out my SPY, and I could choose whatever percentage, and it'll tell me the percentage which it equals in shares, how much I'm going to cover with this option. I also, if I was to have multiple positions, you would see them all listed here, and then I would have the option to choose close out all, and the same thing, choose a percentage, also have the ability to choose all long or all short. So here in this example, I'll go ahead and right-click on my SPY position. I'll choose close out SPY for 100%, and you'll see it's going to prompt me. Are you sure you wanted to close out this 100% SPY? I'll choose yes. The order went out real quick, and it covered right away, leaving me flat where my position is no longer here in SPY. All right, let's see what else we could do. Now, okay, now looking at the watch list right here, I'll show you how we can enter orders in multiple symbols at the same time. That's called list order entry. So here I have a watch list set up with some of the symbols that I was watching the last price in, or I'll make this a little larger so you can see the longer list. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select by just dragging over a short list of these symbols in my watch list. I'm going to right-click and choose Open LOE Window. You'll see that this opens the list order entry window, which is the window that we're going to use to send out multiple orders at once. Now, the list order entry window at the top here is kind of like the order entry window that we went over before, but this is going to pertain to all the symbols below it. By default, for my listed orders, I'm going to use NASDAQ, and for the over-the-counter, I'm also going to use NASDAQ, but I also have the ability to change them. So say listed orders will go to New York, and my OTC market orders will go to NASDAQ. All my orders, I can choose any of the different strategies. For this example, we'll choose limit, and the time in force we'll see as day. Now you can also choose to individually adjust prices for any of the symbols that are in the list. So I'll go ahead, for example, and I'll highlight Apple. I'm going to choose to go, if I wanted to put in an order, let's say 5 cents below the bid, I would go ahead and choose the target as the bid price, and I'd go ahead and choose minus 5 cents from the bid. Then I would set my tier size to 100, and you'll see below that I have Apple to bid minus 5 cents from the bid for 100 shares. Now you'll also be able to see if I highlighted multiple positions and I wanted to go ahead and go to choose market on all of those other positions for 100 shares. Now as I hit go, you'll see all of the parameters that I set are present in the list for the confirm orders. As I hit send orders, all those orders are going to go out to the market in one shot right here. Now I can right-click on any of those individual orders. I can choose cancel. I can choose modify and enter a new order with different parameters. I also can select multiple orders and choose cancel, or I can click on that F8 that I customized earlier, which will cancel everything, or I can click on cancel all from my hot buttons like you see right there.
And Chris, if you could go back to that main menu for a second just to show us again where you would set your default order route. So if you didn't want it to be NASDAQ, if someone wanted to use ARCA, for example, as a default.
For the list order entry?
For either the list or the individual order.
All right, let's see here. For the list order entry. For the list order entry here, we have the listed market and the OTC market. This is where we would set the defaults. So we would choose, for New York's, we could choose, say, ARCA. For over-the-counter, we can choose BATS. We could change it, and it automatically we have set up here to go as market. I'll change that to limit. And then we have the position, with position to close, we have set to 100 shares. And without a position to close, when you're flat in that symbol, we have that tier set by default to 100 shares. Now, for other closeout means, for the defaults, with the right click that I was showing you before in the positions window, where you right click on the position and choose closeout, from this trading tab within the configuration settings under closeouts, you can see for listed or OTC stocks, unlisted we haven't named here, you can choose the different routes that you want to utilize to cover those trades by using that right click of the mouse.
Okay, and if you wanted to change it just for your bid and offer pop-up boxes?
For the bid and offers, you would map that venue as the command in your, so right here, since I have NSDQ bid tier, it would come up as NSDQ initially. Are you talking about if I wanted to switch then to another venue by repeating the key or using the up-down arrows?
So for in order to have a different venue as a default, you would just set up a new key to have that as your as the main venue, and then you would cycle through the other venues if you wanted to change.
Right, there you go. So you have the ability to do both. So if since here I have Shift Q for NASDAQ bid tier, I can also do Alt Q. So for ARCA bid tier. So I would highlight ARCA bid tier from the list and then click on Alt Q and map it over. So now when I hit Alt Q on my keyboard, that would default to ARCA as my venue. And if I changed it and went ahead and hit Shift Q, it would change to NASDAQ. Now in addition to doing that, from the settings, you have the ability to choose. So I'll change this for repeating the command. We'll choose ECNs. Scroll, and the ECN scroll list can be customized. So right here I have it set by default to go after my initial key. So if I hit that Alt Q, it would start out with ARCA. If I hit it again, it would go to New York, then ARCA back again, then it would go to NSDQ. Then I can add other venues by choosing them from the drop-down and hitting Add. Now I will go into the level 2 again. I'll hit the Shift Q. Comes up as NASDAQ, and as I repeat Shift Q, you'll see it goes through the custom order list that I customized from the settings. So you can do it both ways. Like we said, you can map each individual venue to multiple keys, but to simplify, if you just wanted to go ahead and keep it with one key, so you don't have hundreds of keys mapped all over the keyboard. If you have different strategies, you can simply just choose whichever you want to come up at the top, map that command, and then repeat the key, and it will go through the list of venues that you customized in the settings. All right, now I can cover some of the available order types within Lightspeed. We already went over the limit orders, which were available from any of these different options here, which, the order entry, you would set your limit price by the user and send it to the market. We also went over some market orders, which will execute instantaneously at the market price by the different venues. We also have stop orders in Lightspeed. We have a few different types of stop orders that I'll go over. The first stop order is at the NYSE. If I was to go in here, let me find it, NYSE S dot, it's called here in the list in the command map. The S dot stop bid tier and stop offer tier. These commands will actually send the order to the New York specialist where they'll manage your stop order and trigger the order when the stop price is printed. Now, the thing about these orders is that they're only stop market orders. New York Stock Exchange does not offer a stop limit order any longer, and they're only available in NYSE listed stocks. So in order to participate in that type of order, you'd need to go into the keyboard and map the S.stop bid tier and S.stop offer tier commands to your keyboard and send them that way. Now we also have the ability to send an order to the ATD, the Automated Trading Desk, and they'll hold the order and send it to the market on the customer's behalf when the stock's printed at the stop price. Now, those keys are also available in the keyboard. Those are the stop bid tier keys right here and the stop offer tier keys. So when you're using those go to the ATD. They're managed on their end, so they're not on the Lightspeed client. They're actually held elsewhere. So once you send the order, it's on the market. So if you logged off of Lightspeed Trader, that order would still be working unless you canceled it beforehand. Now, those are also the types of stops that are available from the order entry window. So if we went in and choose type from the order entry window and choose stop, and choose stop from the market type, those are the same ones that would go to the ATD. They would be managed off the Lightspeed client, and they would print once the stop price was met on your behalf. And in order to send one from the order entry window, in order to send a stop order to S.dot, which would be those stop market orders that are held by the NYSE specialist and managed on their side, you would choose S.dot as the market type, which it would also have to be a New York stock in order to do that.
So Chris, you kind of touched on this, but then another question came up in the chat, is that there are some order types that you can leave in for the day while you log out of the platform, and those are the order types that are sent to the venues themselves, correct? So if I place a NASDAQ bid or an ARCA offer, those I can leave in for the day even after I'm logging out of the platform. However,
as the time enforcer is set today, and you log off the platform and the order's on the market, that's going to stay on the market. You will be prompted upon exit whether you want to cancel those orders or not before you log out. But if you choose to leave those on the market, they're on the market. The only instance of why I pointed out the difference between those two stop orders that we went over so far is because some people in some instances will put a stop order in that is not held off the client, like at ATD or the New York Stock Exchange Specialist, which is the third type of stop order we have. Those will not execute when you're not logged into Lightspeed. So as I was just saying here, if you go into the custom orders and you create a custom stop order, so I'll go ahead and we'll go through this now. So I'll go buy stop. Let's make it buy NASDAQ stop so we know the venue, and choose new. I will choose NASDAQ buy tier as the venue. So as my stop price is met, it will go ahead and send a buy to NASDAQ to execute that order. That's the difference here between the other ones. When you create one of these custom orders, these are held only on the Lightspeed front end. So as you enter one of these orders and it's on the client, you log off of Lightspeed, that order will never get executed. Lightspeed needs to be open, monitoring the prints and the symbol that you have that stop order in, so it can know when to send the order to the market. So it doesn't really reside anywhere else but locally on your local machine until the print matches your stop price. Then the order will be sent to the market. So that's the difference between the three different stop orders that we have available on Lightspeed.
Okay, thanks, Chris. That's what we want a clarification on.
Okay, no problem. All right, now the next thing I'm going to mention is the super smart orders. Now, super smart orders in Lightspeed will send orders to the best price marketplace for you by splitting the order into the displayed available size. Now, I'll go ahead and show you how the super smart orders are set up. By default, we have super smart orders from the keyboard. Now, those, I'll show you here. We have super smart buy tier 1, Super Smart Sell Tier 1, then we have Super Smart Buy Tier 2. Now, these are just two different sets of keys where you can customize. So you can customize your number 1 set of keys to have different parameters, maybe be more aggressive than your other set of keys with the 2 at the end. Now, in order to customize these parameters, you would go to the Super Smart tab, and for the Super Smart 1 keys, for this set of commands that have 1 at the end, you would choose the parameters. For this example, we'll see how it says buy at the offer or sell at the bid. So this is going to be an aggressive order that goes to buy. You're going to go at the offer price instead of going to the bid price. And to sell, again, you're going to be going over and crossing to the bid to to sell at the bid price. Then we have some preferred market set where we have BATS, ARCA, and EDGE. This just means, it's not necessary to have these in there, but if you choose to specify which venue at each price level that you would like to go to first, you can customize this here. So for this example, we have BATS, ARCA, and EDGE. So if there was NASDAQ, BATS, EDGE, and ARCA all at the same price level on the inside within your limit price, you would go ahead and it would go to BATS, ARCA, and EDGE first before that NASDAQ quote. You can click in and choose the other venues that are available in this text field and add any others accordingly. Just clicking on them, choose Add, and it would add it to the list of preferred markets. All right. Now, the other settings that we have here are the remainder. So if you were going to buy at the offer and you took all of the stock that was available at the offer price and you wanted to choose to post the remaining balance, you can choose which venue you wanted to post the remaining balance of. For this, we could choose ARCA. That would post the remaining balance on the bid side at your limit price. Then the next field below it is the through amount. The through amount and the marketable limit kind of go together. The through amount is the more aggressive of these two settings, and this will immediately send orders to the market through the opposite side quote for the amount that you set here. So here for this instance, I will say 2 cents. So right away it's going to try to go 2 cents through the offer price if I have this set for the through amount 2 cents. Now the marketable limit below it, this one is how far the main order, or like the order manager, will go before it stops the Super Smart whole process. So it'll continually send orders out and go up to $1 through until it stops the process. Now the through amount cannot be higher than the marketable limit. It won't work. The through amount has to be lower than the marketable limit in order for that to work. All right, now let's see.
So Chris, while we're talking about the Super Smart, a really good question came up about, Super Smart is such an effective orders. Why would anyone even choose any different route? And the answer to that is that different traders have different preferences and different needs and strategies. So in some cases, a trader would actually prefer to use a certain venue over like a Lightspeed Super Smart order. Maybe they want to place an order that's hidden. Maybe they're looking for a specific fee or a rebate that they want to get. So what we do at Lightspeed is we give you the full ECN pass-throughs and rebates, which allows you to reduce the cost of your commissions if you're adding liquidity. And each one of these venues offers a different cost structure. So we always leave it up to the individual trader to decide what works best for them. They can direct their orders themselves to a specific ECN or exchange, again, based on the fees or any specific order features that exchange or ECN allows. Or they can just use a Lightspeed Super Smart order and let our algorithm kind of do the thinking for you. But the downside of that is that you don't have the ability then to control any of the pass-through fees because we're essentially executing wherever we can get the fastest and most complete fill. And we don't look at what specific pass-throughs those venues are charging.
And one other thing to add to that might be that it might be a little quicker to go with the Super Smart because if you're going to go to one specific venue to try to get the full size you're trying to buy, you might have to rely upon that venue itself to route away to try to get the stock when you could just go and use the Super Smart and Lightspeed's going to go directly to that venue and get it for you instead of having to route it through that other venue. All right, now I'm going to go down here and explain this overspray. The overspray determines how much more size than the market participant is displaying that you're willing to send on each order. So if a venue is showing 100 shares and you're willing to try to test that quote for 1,000, thinking that he might have some reserve size behind it, your overspray will go ahead and send it for that amount. It will never exceed your tier, though. So if your overspray is to 1,000 and you go with Super Smart and there's only one venue on the offer and you're trying to buy and he's showing 100, you're trying to buy 1,000. If you have that overspray set to 1,000, then we're going to go ahead and send that order to him to 1,000, even though he's displaying that 100 and seeing if he has anything else behind it and more shares behind it. Now, going over to the next settings here, the pop-up confirm. If I choose no, that order is going to fire right into the market without that confirm pop-up box that I showed you before for that NASDAQ bid tier. This way, if I execute a command with the pop-up confirm is no, that pop-up, you're going to see the order go right into the market based on the parameters that you have set in here with the inability to confirm first. Now the time in force here, the individual, this is for each individual order that gets generated to the market based on for the Super Smart job. Each order that gets generated based on these settings will just have a 1-second time in force, so they'll go out, they'll try to get what they can, and in 1 second it'll time out and automatically cancel. And the total time in force is for the actual whole job itself. The Super Smart job will go out and try to work as a day order until it gets the amount of shares that it needs by sending out those individual 1-second time in force orders until the full size is filled. All right, so I can go ahead and show you how we can also create, aside from these two different Super Smart orders that we can create by default within Lightspeed. So just like we said before, we set up the Super Smart 1 with the parameters that we already went through. If we went into Super Smart 2, we can choose to buy at the bid. We could have different preferred markets. We can make the through amount and marketable limit 0, so you're only going to go on the inside and not go through and be more aggressive. This will be a little more of a conservative order, and say maybe pop-up confirm yes. We'll leave the remainder off because in this case, we're not going to want to post the remaining balance on the bid. And we'll leave the time in force at 8 seconds, and the individual orders will be immediate or cancel. So if you don't get anything right away, that order will time out and send a new order. Okay, now in addition to these, you can go ahead and use the custom orders to create your own Super Smart. So you would go in and you can name it. So say we would do buy Super Smart, I don't know, maybe +5 new. So I would go ahead and change it to buy, and that would be to go off the offer price. So I would buy at the offer. My preferred markets here I'm going to remove, so I would have no preferred markets. So Lightspeed would decide whoever's there. It'll just go ahead and send those orders out to whoever's there. I'm not going to post the remaining balance, but I'll go ahead and make my marketable limit 5 cents. So I'd say I'd go 5 cents through. I'll leave the overspray at 0. I'll just go to what they have displayed. And here I can set my order size. So when I have a position to close out, I can choose to close out my full size for my full position. So I wouldn't have to go in full with the tier size to close out my position. I can just have it automatically adjust to that closeout price, closeout size, excuse me. And we can also have it use the same key when I am not closing out a position. In this case, we'll leave it set to go for 1 tier. So if I also have the ability to change this to go to quarter, half, 1, 2, or 3 different tiers. So if I chose 2 and my tier was set to 500, this would send out an order for 1,000 shares. I'm going to leave it at 1.
And Chris, those through amounts are in dollars or cents. They're not as a percentage, right? So if I'm doing...
Right, they're dollars and cents, right.
Okay, perfect. So if the stock is trading at 100 and I put for my through amount 0.05, I'm sending my order up to 105 cents.
Right.
Okay, cool.
All right, now pop-up confirm, we'll make this yes. So when we hit the command, you'll see the specifications of the order load in that pop-up box, where you have the ability to make some last changes with tier, size, or price, and then you'll have to hit enter until, in order to send that order. Time in force, we'll go ahead. We'll make this one 3 minutes. So each individual order will have a 3-minute time in force. All right, so once I hit done, you'll see that it created this buy super smart +5 order. Now I can go ahead and map this command in my keyboard to any key. So I'll click on the keyboard tab, and then I'll click on custom commands, and you'll see if I had multiple, the whole list of all my custom commands would be down here on the right. And I will go ahead and make this say Shift W. I'll click the W on my keyboard. It's already in use for Shift W, so I'll go ahead and see if maybe the D, that's already in use. How about R? Okay, Shift R. So is not mapped to anything. I'll highlight Shift R on the left. I'll click Map. You'll see it moved over the Buy Super Smart +5 to Shift R as I hit OK. So now I'll go into Citigroup here, and I'll hit Shift R on my keyboard. You'll see the Buy 100 Citi at 29.42, 5 cents. This is my Super Smart, the marketable limit. I have the ability to edit the prices on the fly. I can change the limit price or the marketable limit by hitting up and down or left and right. And when I hit enter, the order goes into the market. And again, the cancel key, I can use the mapped one, F8, on the keyboard that I mapped earlier. I can choose to right-click and choose cancel, or I could also go to cancel all orders from my hot buttons. Now, once I did create that order, I'll show you if we went in to add orders, I can choose custom commands also. So if I wanted to add this Super Smart to my hot buttons window, and since it's a buy, I'll bring it to the top just so we can see. I will make that green, and you'll see it shows up Buy Super Smart 5. So if I would click this, the pop-up would come up. It actually will load the order entry with the parameters, and then I'll have to hit go to send it. Now, one other thing that's noteworthy, I guess, if I go into the Super Smart or the custom orders, and I wanted to edit or change any of the orders that I predefined, I would highlight and choose Edit. For this instance, I'll change it so you can see the pop-up confirm no. So once I click that button, that order is going to go right in. So if I hit Shift R, that order is going to go right into the market. If I click on Super Smart, Buy Super Smart 5 from the hot buttons that I brought over, that's going to get fired right into the market in one click. So it'll save you that extra step of populating this, but then again, you have to be ready and know the settings that you have in there, because you're not going to have a chance to manipulate any of the parameters that you predefined. That's going to go right into the market with the settings that you have pre-configured in the custom Super Smart orders for that specific key. And then I'll go back into my level 2, and if I hit the Shift R, same thing. I went on a Super Smart order to buy at 29.47 for 100 shares. And I will go ahead, I hit F8, and that order's out. So let's see here. I think that about covers all the different ways to enter orders within Lightspeed. Mike, do we have any questions or anything else that you think that we should cover?
No, I think we've addressed most of the questions as we went along. So I'll just remind everyone, if there's any pending questions, please type them in now, and we'll try to answer them before we call it quits for the night. Okay, so we have a question about Super Smart being used for options. No, Super Smart is just used for equities. Okay, so I think that those are all the order-related questions that we have. We have some other ones that are on slightly different topics, so we'll address those off the webinar or on a future webinar that's more general. And I don't think we have anything else coming in. Let me just double-check here. Okay, Chris, as far as canceling orders, the different options, can you set an order that just cancels all your buy orders versus all your sell orders?
Yeah. From the configuration settings under the keyboard, you'll see once you check on the cancel orders, these are all the cancel order keys, and here are cancel for ECN buys or ECN sells. You can do it for specific venues that are available. Here are the cancel NASDAQ buys or just only NASDAQ sells. And there should be here, cancel all buys or all sells. You could even, it's even broken down for stocks or options. If you want to cancel all buys or sells for options or equities individually, you can do so.
Okay, great. And is there a cancel and replace feature?
The cancel, replace, well, you can make modifications from pending orders. If this is what you're talking about.
Yep.
If I went and right-clicked on here and I wanted to make a modification, I could right-click and choose Modify. It will bring up this order modification window, which is pretty much very close to the order entry window. You could go ahead and change the parameters. So I have a 35 bid in. I wanted to go ahead and change that to 31 bid. I would go ahead and choose Modify, and it just canceled and replaced that order from a 35 bid to a 31 bid.
Perfect. And then I saw there was also an option there to increment or decrement by a penny.
Right, so I can go ahead and right-click, increment by a penny. So this should change my bid here from 29.31 to 29.32. It's going to prompt me first, and it went ahead and did so. Now I can also decrement by a penny. Right-click, decrement a penny, yes, and it went back to 31.
Okay. All right, great. Well, Chris, thank you so much for another great presentation. I think everyone learned a lot. And, of course, I want to thank our audience for joining us this afternoon. If you want to come back and view this webinar, and we actually have a whole series of these webinars recorded, including ones on order entry, you can go to lightspeed.com/webinar, and you can see our archive there. So this webinar will be posted within a day or two. You can see this one, or you can go on right now and look at our past recordings. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and see you on the next webinar. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys.